The grand Coliseum of Valara gleamed like a sunlit jewel against the dark void of space. Its glass spires and silver arches hovered in orbit around the capital planet, and from every corner of the galaxy, ships arrived to witness the annual Rite of Strength, a tradition older than most known civilizations. Within its arena, bloodlines were proven, empires shifted, and legends were born. This year, however, something unusual had happened. Among the towering warriors of scaled reptilians, cybernetically enhanced insectoids, and gravity-warping titans, stood a lone human, Elias Kane. He wore no ornate armor, bore no ancestral weapons. His uniform was plain, an old Earth military combat suit patched with wear, the insignia long since faded. To most spectators, he looked laughably fragile, an uninvited insect who had wandered into the den of predators. High above, in the royal balcony draped in shimmering banners, sat Princess Serathiel of Valara. With her crystalline skin that refracted light into dazzling rainbows and her crown woven from living starlight, she was worshipped as both warrior and goddess. Her beauty was undeniable, but so was her arrogance. When her advisors whispered that the human had chosen to compete in the rite, she laughed. The sound carried across the hall, magnified by the broadcast system. "A human," she mocked, her jeweled lips curving into a cruel smile. "If that soft creature survives a single round, I'll grant him a reward. If he wins the rite itself," she paused, letting her voice drip with theatrical disdain, "then I'll be his wife forever." The Coliseum roared with laughter. It was a promise meant as mockery, a cruel joke to elevate her own pride and humiliate the human species. Elias only looked up at her, expression calm. He didn't speak, didn't shout in protest. He merely tightened the straps on his gloves and entered the arena. The middle. Round 1. The Beast of Korrath. The gates opened, and the sand quaked beneath the thunderous steps of the Beast of Korrath, a hulking predator bred in gravity wells 10 times stronger than Earth's. Its carapace was as thick as starship plating, its jaws large enough to swallow a man whole. The crowd jeered. "The human will be pulp before he blinks." Elias didn't charge. He observed. The beast lunged, its claws gouging trenches into the ground. Elias rolled aside, swift and precise. He wasn't the strongest here, but he had trained in war zones where hesitation meant death. He remembered the rhythms of predators, the way even the fiercest monster had a pattern. Minutes dragged. Sweat rolled down his brow. Then he saw it. Each time the beast struck with its left claw, its underbelly briefly exposed a softer segment. Elias hurled his plasma knife, not at the armored chest but at that vulnerable joint. The blade pierced, and with a strangled screech, the beast collapsed. Silence followed. Then a murmur. Then applause. The human had survived. From her balcony, Princess Serathiel raised an eyebrow, the faintest flicker of surprise touching her expression. Round 2. The Duel of Titans. His next opponent was no beast but a warrior. Threxer, the colossus of the Zarlak clans. 8 feet tall, with muscles like braided steel and an axe forged from collapsed star fragments, Threxer had ended the lives of champions from across the galaxy. "Yield, little man," Threxer rumbled. "You're not prey. You're dust." Elias didn't yield. The duel began, and the axe carved arcs through the air that could cleave stone. Elias darted like a shadow, his smaller frame making him harder to hit. Still, every near miss left shockwaves that rattled his bones. He couldn't match raw power. He had to use leverage, cunning. He led Threxer into the ruined pillars of the Coliseum, weaving between them like a mouse among cats. With each swing, the Titan shattered more stone, until dust choked the air. Then Elias struck, not at the warrior but at his footing. A broken column, pushed at the right angle, toppled under Threxer's weight. The giant stumbled, knees bent, and in that single breath of imbalance, Elias lunged. His blade pressed against the giant's throat. The crowd gasped. Titan dropped his axe. "Enough," Threxer said, grudging respect in his eyes. "The human wins." Cheers erupted. For the first time, voices rose in Elias's favor. Princess Serathiel leaned forward, her mocking smile fading into a contemplative one. Round 3, the mind trial. The rite wasn't just about strength. The third round tested intellect. Competitors were strapped into neural harnesses and plunged into a shared virtual reality of shifting mazes, logic traps, and psychological warfare. Elias faced 3 alien strategists, each boasting centuries of mental training. The environment warped around them, shifting labyrinths of glass, oceans of liquid fire, puzzles that required genius to solve before the simulated world devoured them whole. His opponents overthought everything. They calculated probabilities, mapped outcomes, and tried to manipulate Elias into dead ends. But humans had always thrived in chaos. Elias trusted instinct where others relied on cold logic. When the labyrinth twisted into endless hallways, he didn't stop to calculate. He ran. When confronted with riddles designed to stall him, he chose bold, reckless solutions that shouldn't have worked, but did. One by one, the alien minds faltered, overheated, collapsed. Elias stood alone when the simulation ended. For the first time, the princess rose from her throne, her crystalline eyes fixed on him. She said nothing, but the weight of her gaze was undeniable. The final round. The princess's champion. The final round was always the most brutal. To claim victory in the rite, one had to face the champion chosen by the royal bloodline. This year, the champion was none other than Commander Korrath, the princess's personal guard, an immortal warrior encased in bioforged armor, wielding twin blades that shimmered with antimatter edges. He was undefeated for 100 years. The Coliseum fell silent as the duel began. Korrath moved like a storm, blades flashing faster than the eye could follow. Elias barely parried with his vibrosword, sparks raining around him. Every strike rattled his arms, every dodge cut closer than the last. He bled. His breath grew ragged, but he remembered Earth. He remembered trenches filled with fire, comrades lost in silence, the promise he had made to himself. Never stop. Never yield. Humanity is worth more than extinction. When Korrath lunged for the finishing strike, Elias didn't dodge. He stepped into the blow inside the guard, where the champion's long blades were weakest. His short vibrosword plunged between the armored plates of Korrath's chest. The immortal warrior staggered, dropped his blades and fell. The Coliseum erupted, not with laughter but with awe. The human had done the impossible.